I'm going to introduce you to a very, very special man. As a young man, Simon Munn had his left leg amputated after a railway accident. Taking a shortcut home from the pub, he slipped and fell face down with his legs on the rail track. The driver of the train saw him, but was unable to stop. Upon stopping, the driver and guard of the train retraced their steps. They followed the trail of blood and discovered Simon on the A5. They called an ambulance, and with the help of a passing motorist, using their high-vis vests and Herg golf clubs, they tourniqueted both his legs to stop the bleeding and saved his life. Thank God for that, because Simon is now a 7-time Paralympian, receiving the British Wheelchair Sports Awards in 2007. We're proud to have him as a Lord's Taverners ambassador, and simply, he's an inspiration to many young people. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Munn. Build-up?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Now, so the wheelchair is just for when you're playing. You're okay to get around without the wheelchair when you're not on the park?
Yeah, absolutely. I only use a wheelchair for training and playing my sport.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that you were meant to be retiring after the London Paralympics, and yet I saw you winning a medal at Rio.
That's correct, yeah. I don't remember ever saying that I was retiring. Every time I got interviewed, they were saying, I thought you were supposed to be retiring, and I never said that. I never had that conversation with my wife. So I reckon they made it up.
I had a lot of people when I was playing who were telling me I should be retiring, but Now, there are probably a lot of people in here who don't know enough about wheelchair basketball or wheelchair sport. You play in a position, is it called the four-pointer? Or?
Yeah, my points, I'm a four-pointer. So it goes on your disability. So for minimal disabilities, which would be someone with like a below-knee amputation, I'm above knee amputation, so I'm awarded a half point less. Someone who's a one-pointer would be probably paralysed from the chest down. So they're more disabled. And the reason because of the points is you can't play any more than 14 points at any one time.
So we've all got it now, haven't we? The four-pointers?
Ish.
Now, so tell us a bit about Rio. Was Rio the highlight of your career, or?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was fantastic because the bronze medal, really. All of my Paralympics have been fantastic. Highlight of my career would be not a Paralympics, it would be a World Championships in Kitakaishu 2002, where we got a silver medal. We lost out narrowly by a fluky three-point shot, although he was 6 feet over the three-point line. Yeah. And yeah, we lost. I mean, we was controlling the game from start to finish, really, except for that lucky shot at the end. And I was lucky enough to be out of 130 athletes, world-class athletes, to be MVP of the tournament, which was a personal honour for me to be recognised as one of the best players in the world. Thank you.
So after those great days, you've had 2 bronzes, 1 silver, and many other great tournaments. Are you able to sort of sit at home and think, actually, it was a terrible thing that happened to me, or do you now look ahead all the time? Do you look back and remember those dark days?
No, not really. If I'm honest, when I look back, I don't think that they were that dark. Obviously, there was dark times. I probably hid it well. But when I always look forward. I'm not going to let anything get me down. I'm not going to let anything stop me. and like I say, I don't believe that, if I'm truly honest, that they were dark days. I just believe that I was a normal bloke before my accident, and I was a normal bloke after my accident, just with a leg missing.
But you're a mentor now for a lot of young kids who have gone through disability and real suffering. Tell us the difference that the wheelchair, for example, can make to these kids.
Well, I mean, like tonight with the Lord Taverners, you're not digging deep for wheelchairs or equipment. For me, you're digging deep for people's children's dreams, children's aspirations of playing sport. Without your help tonight, that's not going to be possible. It's just not possible.
No. Well, thank you, and good luck with all your mentoring of these youngsters, getting them into sport. It's very exciting. And have you given up now, or are you going to start again?
No, I've definitely retired. I've retired internationally, but I'm still playing club basketball in Italy at the moment.
Simon Munn, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. You heard firsthand from Simon about the difference that participating in sport can make to the lives of young people with disabilities. It's worth remembering that this can often be tinged with depression, sadness and isolation, transforming them into a world where they can have enormous fun, be part of a team, make friends, and fulfill their dreams. Not everybody is like Simon Munn and has this wonderful outlook on life. So we're trying to help those people who need it most. And this year we've ensured that nearly 400 potential future Paralympians were given the opportunity to continue their development in the sport. So I'm now going to ask you to help us right now to put even more wheelchairs into clubs and schools and make these dreams a reality for so many more young people. On your table, and this is where the captains need to, I think, wake up and get to work again. On your table, you all have a wheelchair sports appeal form. You'll find that on the middle of your table there. And I want you to fill this out, if you can, with whatever you feel you can give, because every penny will help to create a sporting chance for young people today. It costs £1,000 to make a completely new wheelchair. It costs £500 to build the special lightweight steel frame, and it costs £200 to buy a set of wheels. So any contribution towards any of these parts of the wheelchair will make a massive difference here today. And the beauty of this game is it only takes 10 minutes. It's only going to last for 10 minutes. So we're making this plea of you to get involved in the next 10 minutes when I say go.
There's a golden rule of my job, and it's a good one. It's the bigger the star, the shorter the intro. Rob Brydon.
That's lovely, thank you. Very sweet, thank you. Hello.
So,
Lovely.
now, let's talk about, we've had a dose of the Welsh today, and powerful, wasn't it?
Yes. Can I say first, before we do anything else,
Yes.
Michael, I'm having a lovely time. I'd like to thank the Lord's Taverners for having me here. I have had a drink, which I wouldn't normally do before appearing on stage, but that's, I think, it's in the spirit of the afternoon. I've been given a Lord's Taverners tie to wear, which I'm wearing with pride, and you've come as Harry Potter.
You like them?
Is it your first day at Hogwarts?
My wife loves them. I like them. That's only because I can't see them.
They look lovely.
Oh,
they
thank
look
you.
lovely.
Thank you,
They're a
thank you.
bold
Right.
statement.
Very kind of you.
If I
Do you
knew
mean-
Scott Quinnell was going to be that funny, I wouldn't have agreed to do this. Can I just say that? What were you playing at? With a
He
rugby.
was great.
I do the jokes.
Let's talk about being Welsh.
Yes.
Port Talbot. you came from, fabulous, serviceable town.
Are there people here from Port Talbot? Oh my God, what a day for you. Electricity? Thank you, Max Boyce, for that joke. 1974.
So where did the ambition then come? I mean, your dad was sold cars, your mum was a teacher.
Yeah.
No theatricals in the family, nothing like that. So where did it come from, the ambition to be what you are?
I'm one of those people that always knew what they wanted to do. I have children, I have 5 children now, and it's always surprises me when they say to me, I say, what do you want to do? And my older ones, a few of the older ones, they have no idea. And I find that very hard to identify with, because I knew from a young age that I wanted to perform, that I wanted to do comedy, I wanted to act. Because I come from Port Talbot, and I think it's...
We've had that.
We've done that bit already.
We've done that one, yeah.
If you want to join in, come to rehearsals. I've given him my stare. We won't be hearing from him again. In Port Talbot, my stare obviously isn't as effective as I thought. I'm standing up now, by the way.
In that part of Wales that you come from...
Well, Port Talbot is amazing. It's very small, and yet it was where Richard Burton came from. It was where Anthony Hopkins came from. More recently, Michael Sheen comes from there. So when you...
And Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Well, Catherine came from Swansea, which is a little bit that way. But Catherine Jenkins came from Neath. I mean, there's a lot of people. But if you have to single out Burton and Hopkins, because they were, and remain posthumously with Burton, but global, I mean, proper film stars, as Catherine is, but Burton and Hopkins. So you grew up with a feeling that it was not impossible. It was unlikely, but it was not impossible. And my father actually grew up in the same street as Anthony Hopkins at the same time. So there are always stories of Hopkins' father was a baker, and so you felt that there was a sort of closeness to them, and it gave you something to aspire to.
Do you meet him? Have you met him?
I've met Anthony Hopkins, yes. Tony Hopkins, wonderful man. Met him I'm doing Anthony Hopkins. Wonderful man, lives out in Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. I used to drink, not anymore, very dull, very boring, don't like to talk about it, good Lord, there we are. When I did a thing called The Trip with Steve Coogan, and we impersonated him, we did him in The Bounty, where he said he played Captain Bligh, and Mel Gibson was Fletcher Christian, and he would go to Anthony Hopkins as the captain and say, he said, "Sir, there are rumblings." Hopkins says, "Oh, there are rumblings, are there? Come closer," because he says, "William, there are rumblings." "William, not sir, not captain. Round the horn we shall go, sir. Round the horn is the quicker way. Damn your eyes, Mr. Fryer. Look at me when you talk to me, sir." And I met Hopkins. I met him in, and there's a big ending. I met him in Los Angeles, and he said, "Love the trip, I really love the trip." I said, "Well, we've just done another one in Italy, and in the Italian one, we get in a boat, and we do Captain Bligh." And he started doing it in the car. He was driving me. And he went, "Damn your eyes, Mr. Fryer." And I said, "Damn your eyes, Mr. Fryer, sir." He said, "You turn your back on me, man." I said, "You turn your back on me, man." And I got lightheaded. I thought, my God, we were in Hollywood, and I was doing this with him, and it was kind of mind-blowing. It's like when I met Sue Pollard. I mean, you couldn't...
Did you meet her in Port Talbot? Burton himself. I found Burton a very strange cove indeed.
Well, you interviewed him. I used to watch your interviews with him when I was a boy, religiously. I would record them on the VHS and study him. 'Cause it wasn't like it was now. You couldn't just... I was going to say for all the young people here, I don't think there are any. But if nothing else today, I've not felt this young for years. It wasn't like today where you can look stuff up on YouTube. You know, back then you had to wait for stuff to come on the telly, and if they would show you one of your interviews with Richard Burton, I mean, I could recite that. The ones you did with Sellers, the ones you did with Burton. I remember Richard Burton coming on, and do you remember when he quoted Hamlet to you? He sat there and he said, I have of late, the wherefore, I know not, lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercise. Indeed, I'm doing Richard Burton. Indeed, it goes so heavily with my disposition, this goodly frame, the earth. Look you, this fine o'erhanging firmament, this foul congregation of vapours. It appeareth to me nothing more than a... And so on, and so on.
Yeah, it's very good. Excellent.
And I would watch that and just drink it up. But what was he like? I never met him. What was he like as a man?
Well, he was tiddly.
Tiddly.
He was not drinking, and he was being guarded by Princess Elizabeth of Yugoslavia at the time. And he couldn't wait to get out of the room. And as soon as she left the room, well, away he went. And he'd just actually come back from, I think, 2 months in a sanatorium in Switzerland.
Wow.
And we had to do the recording in the morning, we've been told, to get a better chance of him being on form.
Oh, God.
The background to our business. So we had to do it about 11:30, and we'd forgotten to book an audience. So we had to put out the tannoy system, the fact there was an interview with Richard Burton in the theatre. Would anybody not working, please come. The only people not working were the kitchen staff. So when he had just been for 2 weeks in a sanatorium, I said to Richard Burton, he came around the corner, he was faced by serried ranks of people in white coats. He was not well pleased at all. But I mean, he had this extraordinary facility. He was a star, and he had that kind of, not a glow, not with him, but there was something else about him. Power. He had this extraordinary power, focus of voice, to actually transform this rather at that time, not a sad figure, but he'd lost a lot of weight and he wasn't looking well. But nonetheless, he looked like $1 million in my eyes when I talked to him.
He had charisma, didn't he?
He did,
I
indeed.
mean, you hear people talk about him who met him and say he filled up a room. He just had a presence about him. I would say he's as much a great man as he was a great actor.
You see, you mentioned two people there, two Welsh actors, and one of the great component parts of them, maybe the most important, was the voice.
Yeah.
They had wonderful voices. And you talk about singers too, Tom Jones and people like that. Why do the Welsh have the best voices for that kind of thing?
I don't know. I always used to think that was just a nice thing. People would say the Welsh can sing, but it does seem. I mean, Wales is such a tiny country. How we fitted Scott into it, I don't know. It's a small place, but you will see so many people that can sing. Or I do think there's a lyrical quality to the country, and you see that in the poets. I mean, not just Dylan Thomas, R.S. Thomas, there's all the Thomases.
Yeah.
So many poets, so many singers, that we're a very emotional people, aren't we? I'm married to an English woman, and when that's how I know her, English woman. And any more familiar than that would see impolite. And when we first met and the families got together, I think she was taken aback by how emotional my family is by comparison to hers. I remember being a bit sort of shocked, but we're a very emotional. This is a room predominantly of English people. And I've looked around me today and seen the English and how they interact with each other. And it's a very suave, very smooth, very sort of sort of way of being. Hello, Giles, how are you? I say, Grant, how are you? Great to see you. Yeah, see you on Thursday. Yeah, great. Like a nation of Hugh Grants. Gosh, crikey, excellent. Gosh, no. I was wondering if you fancied popping out to the car park and giving me a blow-by-blow account of what's been going. We don't greet each other in Wales in such a suave way, do we, Scott? A Welsh hello is basically this. Who made a sheep noise? No, seriously, Michael, no sheep noises, please. It's hard for me to remember this act with an erection. A Welsh hello is basically this. All right? We're just not as suave. We're not as fierce as the Scots. Are there any Scots here? You can take our land, but you'll never take our freedom. You can take our land? Don't forget our freedom now before you go. Thanks for coming. And we're not as smooth as the Irish. Any Irishmen here? Yeah. I'm surprised there are any here that aren't up in one of the rooms shagging. Irish guys, they're silver-tongued bastards, so they are, all of them. There was an advert years ago for Kilkenny, you know, the drink, and there was a guy in a nightclub talking to a girl, and his chat-up line was, "Did you not hurt yourself when you fell down from the heavens?" If you're in a nightclub in Port Talbot, don't expect that. Guy from Port Talbot sees a woman he likes is basically this. All right. I got a transit van in the car park. And 9 times out of 10, that'll work.
When you were growing up there, and growing up in this very specific society with a lot of music, you actually invented a singer called, was it Tony Casino, didn't you?
Yes.
Was that based upon Tom Jones?
Yeah, I love Tom Jones. I grew up loving Tom Jones, absolutely adoring him from a young age. He was always there. I was born in 65. I think it's not unusual, was that very year. Mm-hmm. So he's always been there. And over the years, I've got to know him, and I've got to work with him, and we did a record for Comic Relief, and it's been wonderful. But as a kid, so when I started to do stand-up comedy in the mid-80s in Wales, I invented this character called Tony Casino, who was a nightclub singer who wanted to be Tom Jones, but he was a little bit camp, and it didn't really go. But the thing I used to do was, that Lionel Richie song was a hit at the time, Hello, but I used to sing it in the Tony Casino style. I'll try and do it for you now. I've been alone with you inside my mind, and in my dreams I've kissed your lips 1,000 times. Sometimes I sees you pass outside my door. Hello?
What else did you feature in this act of yours?
Well, that was basically it,
that was
Michael.
it, was it? Fine.
There wasn't much else. And then, of course, I went on to meet Tom, and I mean, the thing with Tom Jones, you've met him many times, is that he's a remarkable man. But he's got quite a peculiar way of being. He holds this hand out all the time, pointing, like a bloody Dalek. And he emphasizes words like that, you know. He looks like a Dalek, but it's not exterminate, it's inseminate. He has a strange way of emphasizing odd words. So he'll say, well, it's wonderful to be here in the center of London. I arrived here today by car. We understand what a car is, Tom. You don't really... It's as if he's not sure if English is your first language. And there's always this clearing the throat for no reason. And we got to do a thing with him. Ruth Jones and I, in Gavin and Stacey, we did an episode where we sang Islands in the Stream, and Ruth had the idea, well, why don't we do it for Comic Relief? So we went to Richard Curtis, and I remember being in the offices of Universal Music saying, look, we've got this idea. We want to do Islands in the Stream, and we want Tom Jones to come on towards the end of the song, and we want to film the video in Las Vegas with Tom Jones. Thinking, not a chance in hell. And they said, yeah, we can make that happen. So we recorded the song, and if you remember, the bit in the song that Tom comes in on is right towards the end. He goes, oh, sail away with me, sail away with me. And then we're going, islands in, and he's going, islands in the stream. That is what we are. No one, oh, and he's doing all that, right? So when we recorded the record, we recorded our vocals, and then they said, well, do a guide now for Tom, so he knows what he's got to do, and he can do. So I did all of that, you know, and all the things. And then we eventually go out to Las Vegas to film the video. And he thought that they had, I said, have you heard the finished thing? He said, yeah. He said, they went with you a version then in the end. I said, what? He said, yeah, they played it to me earlier on in the day. You know, at a previous time to now. In the immediate past, before now had happened, you know. And I said, no, that was you. And he said, good God. So, see, I thought, well, I took it as a compliment, you know. So we went off then to film this video, and it basically, what happened was, in the video, Bryn and Nessa go to Las Vegas to enter a karaoke competition. And as we're driving through the desert, we come upon Tom Jones. And we're hitchhiking, so our car's broken down. And this big limo pulls up. And the window goes down. And my only contribution, because Ruth writes everything, but my contribution was the line that Tom says when the window goes down. We see Tom, and he's looking up. And he sees Nessa, and he goes, what's occurring, pussycat? So, and then we get in the car, and we drive. So we're filming then all day with, I think Tom was in the middle, was he? No, I was in the middle, I think Tom's there, and Ruth is there. And we're filming these scenes. And then we have time when they're just changing the cameras, changing the lenses, and, you know, what do you say to Tom Jones? So I said, I'm a big Elvis fan. I love Elvis, right? And he's met Elvis. I don't know if he's ever mentioned it. But he says, I said, Tom, do you have any stories about Elvis that you don't tell in public? He went, oh, yeah. I said, would you tell them to me? He said, yeah. He said, I was in the shower one time after the show. And I said, oh, I've heard that one, Tom, because I'd heard the one about the shower. He said, you haven't heard the ending. I thought, my God, what happened in the shower? He said, I was in the shower one time in Vegas. You know, we'd done a show, and I'd finished, and I was in the shower, and all of a sudden I could hear this voice above me. And it was Elvis. He goes, Tom, Tom. And whenever Tom does Elvis, he sticks his hand up like that, and he goes, Tom, I got this great song, man. I'm doing Elvis Presley. I got this great song, man. You got to sing this song. He goes, well, Elvis, I'm in the shower. Let me finish. Okay, man. So he goes away. Anyway, I finished. I did my hair. I got out of the shower. I closed the door behind me, you know. I shut the door. I closed it so it wasn't open anymore. It had been open as I got in. Previously, it was shut. I mean, when I encountered it originally, it was closed. And then in the process of getting in, it had to open. There was no avoiding it. And then I closed it. He said, I came out, and he said, Elvis was sat down on the toilet. And when he'd finished, he got up, he walked over to the sink. He said he wiped his ass with a flannel and soap. Which is not the image of Elvis that I like. Oh my God, what the hell is happening there? You don't see that on the cruise adverts. It's just nice to be on dry land, I'll be honest.
I mean, this career of yours has been remarkable because
Thank you for calling it a career, Michael.
it is a career. It's a very successful career with the most extraordinary start because, I mean, it wasn't until you'd been you're working at BBC Wales, Radio Wales, as an announcer or wherever it might be, couldn't get arrested.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you took off. What was the point?
Well, I had a strange history in that I was at school. I was the star of the school musicals. Everybody encouraged me. I'm not one of those stories where people say you'll never make it. At school, it was you're talented. I played the lead roles. Ruth Jones was in the same school. We did Guys and Dolls together and shows and things. Then I left. I got spotted doing that Tony Casino thing by BBC Wales, and I got a radio show. Mm-hmm. But as a presenter, it was a kind of Alan Partridge, early morning radio presenting, and I got stuck in that world, and I was there for 7 years, and I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get acting work. I couldn't do anything. I was a shopping channel presenter on Sky Television. I presented a movie show on Sky Television. Now, all the while that I was presenting on the shopping channel, I was sending my tape off. I was sending my CV wanting to get acting work. But obviously, no one in their right mind is going to say, yeah, let's get this guy who's presenting on the show. No one's going to do it. That company went bust. I then got a job hosting a movie show. So now I'm in that world, but I'm on totally the wrong side of the equation. I went to Morocco, I met Robin Williams on a film. But I'm on the wrong side, and I'm watching what he did and thinking, I want to do what you're doing. But again, you're making it harder. You're not getting closer to your target, you're further away, because you're on the wrong side of it. They got rid of me. A new head of programs came in at Sky. Didn't like me. I was out. And we just bought our first flat in London, so this was bad news. So,
is it true, by the way, you sold the furniture?
This was around this time that money was so tight that we had to put furniture that we had in the house. I couldn't pay the mortgage, and we sold furniture in the small ads in the paper because I just wasn't making any money. I started to do voiceovers. I've always been lucky to have a very versatile voice. I started to do that, and then I'd had a character called Keith Barrett when I was on Radio Wales. He used to talk like that. He was a Cardiff taxi driver. He had a wife called Marion, and he always saw the good in everything he ever did, and he would talk like that, and it was sort of very sketch comedy. And I thought, I have to take a step up. I was in my early to mid-30s, and I was thinking nothing's going to happen. By then, I was making a good living doing voices. I was the man who said, and with Match of the Day at 10, that's Saturday night on BBC One. And I was the man who said, you know when you've been tangoed. And I was the man who said, Philadelphia with chives. And I was the man who said, toilet duck goes on cleaning flush after flush.
It's a living.
Which many consider to be my best work. So I was doing that. So financially I was okay, but I wasn't satisfied. And more I wanted to perform. I started to do stand-up comedy around the clubs in London. And I had this character, Keith Barrett. And I had the idea, I got a little part in a film, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I played the traffic warden that gets beaten up. It's a rubbish part. You know, it doesn't show any ability. Anybody here could have done it. It requires no skill. But it was noticed and it got mentioned in Empire magazine. It said, and Robert Brydon, an extremely unlucky traffic warden. And I can't tell you, it turned out to be very kind to me, but I can't tell you what a big deal that was. I remember where I was when I read it. I was on the Upper Richmond Road in Sheen. I was with my then wife. I opened it up, and that I was in a film magazine. It was unthinkable. In those days, and when I go to meet students now, and I tell them about this, I used to watch the British Comedy Awards long before I was part of that world. And Steve Coogan, my dear friend and colleague, he was sweeping the board. And I would watch that. It was in another universe. It wasn't another world, it was a universe away. It was impenetrable. I couldn't get into how could I possibly get into that world? It was impossible. So then I looked, and there was my name. And it was a big deal. And I thought, now my father was a salesman. I think I got a bit of that in me. I thought, I must be able to use this to my advantage. This must have a currency. So I went out, because I was making a bit of money, and I shot 4 characters on video. Packaged it up onto a VHS, because DVDs weren't in, called it Rob Brydon, an extremely unlucky traffic warden, thinking it might, And one of them was Keith Barrett, in his taxi, driving along, talking to the camera on the windscreen, like that. And it was seen by 2 key people in my life. One was Hugo Blick, a brilliant writer, producer, director, who was working at the BBC, but who I'd been at college with in Cardiff. He trained to be an actor then. I knew him. He saw it. And Steve Coogan saw it, who was my hero. I mean, I loved what he was doing. I wanted to do what he was doing. He wanted to get involved. Hugo had a development fund, so we made a pilot, which became episode 1, and that changed my life completely. I was 35, and Marion and Jeff and another show called Human Remains that I did with Julia Davis came out that autumn. I was at the Comedy Awards I won Best Newcomer at the Comedy Awards that December. My marriage ended. It was an incredibly tumultuous, upsetting time and an absolute turning point in my life.
That's it, yeah. It's an amazing story of just self-belief, basically, of believing that there isn't something else out there. It's got my name in it. Don't know quite what it is, but if you stick around long enough.
But you need perspective to see that. I wrote an autobiography a few years ago. I think because the advance was so high, and I remember...
Why not?
And my father read it, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, I didn't realize how much of a struggle it had been.
Yes.
But the weirdest thing was I didn't realize it until I read it. Because I think anybody here who's managed to do what they want to do, and maybe it hasn't been easy, I don't think you just keep doing that, don't you? You just keep going forward. Yeah. When I read it back, I genuinely thought, if I had been stood at the side watching me, because I got sacked from things, I've got a ring binder of rejections that high. I have 2 from the agent that I'm with now. That's not a joke. 2 years apart, Maureen Vincent at United Agents, who was with PFD, one of the most respected agents in Britain, 2 separate rejections from her. If I could have viewed it from that perspective, I would have said, mate, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Choose something else.
Can I now ask you mentioned there the trip, where both of you do very bad impressions of me. That's not a criticism at all.
I do in the trip and the trip to Italy. Do a very good impression of Michael. I mean, tell me about your roots. I mean, you grew up in South Wales.
Well, I did ask for that. But it's been an international success. I mean, all over. And yet it's so simple, so basically simple, so simple that I want to know how it's done. I mean, there's no script that I can.
This is the trip. I don't know if you've seen it or you've not. It's a kind of a
cult
thing, but it's myself and Steve Coogan. We play fictionalized versions of ourselves, some of it very close to home, some of it not. And the idea is that we've been asked to review restaurants. The first series was the Lake District. The second was Italy. We've just finished one in Spain, which goes out next year. And the idea came from the filmmaker Michael Winterbottom, who Steve had made a few films with. I did a little bit in 24 Hour Party People and a bigger part in A Cock and Bull Story. And in A Cock and Bull Story, Steve and I one day, because it was raining and Michael couldn't film the scene he wanted to outside, he'd seen how we were on set, messing around with each other, and he put us in the makeup truck, and he said, just say whatever you want, just make stuff up. And we started talking and improvising, and he loved it, and that became the opening of the film, and one of the best received bits in the film. And then about 3 years later, he took us out for lunch, and he said, look, I've got this idea. We're going to do this series, 6.5 hours, you in a different restaurant each time, and you just talk.
It's wonderful.
And we said no,
funny.
Because it sounded ludicrous. And it took 2 more lunches.
But how did you decide what to talk
about? Before we would agree to it, because I said, Michael, you may get one good half an hour out of it.
Yeah.
And we've done more than 18 now.
But it really is that free flowing.
Michael will come up with an outline of the story, of the plot, of what we do, but all the bits that people know, that they know when Steve and I challenge each other to do the best Michael Caine. Because it is my contention that Michael Caine's voice has changed over the years.
Yes. Yeah.
I say, in the 1960s, he used to talk like that. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. But over the years, the voice has slowly changed. And it's gone to the back of the throat. And you don't know whether it's going to burst into tears at any moment or whether it's going to get to the end of the sentence. He's so bloody slow. But everybody's voice changes over the years. You can look at, I tell you a thing, Paul McCartney, you know, that sort of voice, you know, that for years was like that, you know, and then, all right, you know, yeah, and it was like rock and roll, you know, and then people get older, and they, you know, basically start to lose, you know, like mobility around the mouth, and they just become like that, you know. And it's like a drunk guy doing Paul McCartney, you know. Or Alan Bennett, you know, if you think of, hang on, myself a fighting chance. Hang on, I've got to get into some. Oh, Alan, right. So, you think of Alan Bennett, years ago, with Talking Heads, and Mum would say, oh, Alan, and this was at Leeds Primary, and then I went on, and it would be like that. But now, if you listen to Alan on Radio 4, again, the mobility gone from the voice. And you start, I realize in a room of this age group, this could be quite offensive, but listen, we're all on the same train track. Some of us have got to some station sooner. I'll be catching up with you, don't worry. But, you know, and the voice has changed. I must tell you, Paul McCartney, who I love, Coogan and I, Steve phoned me up, he said, Rob, it's Steve. He said, look, he said, no. He said, Rob, I've got 2 tickets for Paul McCartney. He said, would you like to come? And I said, lovely, yes. He said, and there's a drink stew afterwards. I said, fantastic. So we go to the Hammersmith Apollo a few Christmases ago. We go and see McCartney, and it's brilliant. Oh, it was so good, fantastic. And we go for drinks afterwards in the bar. And we see Frank Skinner. So it's me, Steve, and Frank. We're chatting away. Now, Frank had met Paul before. Steve had met Paul before. I'd never met Paul. I once met Ringo on the Jonathan Ross show, who arrived in makeup and went, and I love this, he went, hello, everybody. All done in one shot. Beautiful. And when he left, guess what he said? Bye-bye, everybody. And it was a case of, we've met Ringo Starr. So we stood chatting, me, Steve, and Frank, and Paul's daughter, Mary, the photographer, who I had met before, brings him over to us. Paul McCartney. She says, Dad, you know Frank? Hey, Frank. You know Steve? Whoa. And this is Rob. And I thought, he doesn't know me. I'm going to have to explain who I am. This is awful. And he went, I know Rob. He said, Jimmy Fallon loves you. He's all over the trip. Jimmy Fallon hosts The Tonight Show in America on NBC. And Paul had been on, and Jimmy had said, I love this English show, The Trip. I said, wow. So I'm on cloud 9 now. And we start talking. And it's me and Frank and Steve and Paul McCartney. And he's telling us stories. And he's saying things like, anyway, you know, so John said, la-di-da-di-da. Can you imagine John saying that? And I'm looking at Steve going, he's talking about John Lennon. And he said things like, you know what it's like when you're on tour, guys. You know, one day it's hello, New York. The next day it's hello, Minnesota. And me and Steve and Frank are thinking, not really. It's hello, Grimsby. Great to be here, Milton Keynes. I mean, it's a similar thing, but different. So we're having this talk, and Paul is so lovely. He's charming, he's personable, he's talking to us like we're his equals, and it's just heaven. And I think to myself, what am I going to say to him that he hasn't heard before? Because these people, they've heard everything before. They've heard every compliment. They've heard every favor. Can I tell you what my favorite album is? No, I don't give a, why would he care? So I thought, I've got to say something different. So I said, bear in mind, I'd had a few drinks. I said, Paul, can I ask you a question? Well, yeah. I said, and don't rush to answer. And he went, oh. And I could feel Steve's sphincter tighten beside me. I said, Paul, would you come and do a show for me where I choose the songs? I thought he'd find that interesting. And he said, what do I open with? And a chill descended in the room. And I thought, well, now, don't name an obvious song. Now, I buy his solo albums because I am a fan. So I named an obscure album track, which I hoped would make him think this man's a fan. I think it made him think this man's a stalker. And he went like that. He said, what do I follow it up with? And I said, oh, another one. And then I said, Paul, if you get bored, just say. And he said, oh, don't worry. If I get bored, you'll know. I wanted the ground to eat me up. The minutes trudged by. Eventually, Paul said, well, listen, guys, I better mingle. And off he went. I went, oh, geez. Steve turns to me. What the hell were you doing? I said, I just wanted to ask him a different... I mean, he was visibly upset. Mary comes over. She says, how'd it go with Dad? Steve goes, tell her what you said. I said, would you do a show? Can I choose the songs? And Mary said, oh, the one thing Dad hates is being told what to sing.
Listen.
I've never seen Steve look so happy. I thought, oh, God. And I just stood there sulking. 20 minutes later, Paul is leaving. He's doing a lap of the room. He comes over, straight past me. He goes to Steve. Great to see you, man. Ha-ha. Back of the net. Gives him a hug. Frankie, keep doing it, man. Sorry, he didn't hug Steve. Important point. Didn't hug Steve, just stood up to Frank. I thought, he's not even going to acknowledge me. He turns to me, and he goes, we'll keep a welcome in the hillside. We'll keep a welcome in the vale. I went, this land you knew will still be singing. Looking over at Steve. When you come, and we finished together. When you come home again to Wales. He leans forward, grabs me in a bear hug. Great to meet you, man. And leaves.
Wow.
And I'm floating on air. And Steve turns to me and he says, he said, you had to sing with him, didn't you? And I said, he started it. And Steve said, yes, and you extended it.
Listen, a while ago, came to see you at the Garrick with Ken Brother.
Oh, yes.
Not talking about that at all. We haven't got time now, but it was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean, now you've got a very accomplished career and a very good career now, which, when you look at it, can last forever.
Thank you.
And I particularly hope it does, because
Thank you.
I have to tell the people here that when I asked you to come and make this speech, you said, I'm very busy, and you are very busy, and it took a day out of your life at least. But you did it. There was no question we all do it for so much or whatever. You just came and did it for me, for a mate, and I thank you very much. And on behalf of all the Welsh Taverners, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, Brydon.
Very much indeed. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you. That was lovely. That was really nice. Thank you very much indeed.
Could have gone.